So for marketing Fist of Awesome primarily, I basically went all out. I knew it was the first time I'd made a game which had real potential to get people's imagination going. And so I threw myself into it. I applied to as many different expos and conferences as I could, did as many talks as I could about like kind of my background in game dev and how I was approaching doing Fist of Awesome. And I made myself as visible and approachable as possible to like press and journalists. And I really wanted to make sure that I did everything I possibly could. I didn't have a budget for doing it, but I had a lot of time. So my fears for showing my game to other people, like when it's in an early stage of development, it's not based around people stealing my ideas or anything like that, because I think ideas are like, they're not the important thing. Execution is always the most important thing. My fear when I show people my games is me seeing them not like it and not understanding why they don't like it. I think the greatest thing is when you show someone your game and they hate it, but you can very clearly see where they're getting frustrated and how you can solve that problem. One of the hardest bits of game development usually is tutorials. Tutorials are horrible and boring and fiddly and require endless iteration. But when you show them off in public, that's when you get the useful feedback for how to correct them and how to fix the mistakes. And doing things like shows where you're there for 3 days, showing your game again and again to people is brilliant for getting the early stages of your game just honed to perfection, because you can continually test people with new builds and see how different people react and see where they go wrong and see how you can tweak it to make it more accessible. One thing I've realized like developing games is that the more you play your own game, the less objective you can be about not even just how good or bad it is, but how easy or hard it is. Certainly when I made Fist of Awesome, the first build I took to show off to people was way too hard, but because I've been playing it solidly for 4 months, I thought it was really easy. The first few levels of your game, make them almost impossible to fail, because people will fail them. If there's a tiny bit of challenge or a tiny bit where it can go wrong, let people not hold their hands, but let them experience the game in a very safe manner before you start ratcheting up the difficulty levels. That's the approach I take anyway.